Bridget.
It's coming up to 18 minutes past 7 now. In Scotland, the Conservatives confounded all the pundits who'd been predicting they'd be virtually wiped out north of the border. Not only did they retain all their seats, they actually made 2 gains. Well, we're joined now by Bill Miller, Professor of Politics at Glasgow University. Good morning to you, Bill.
Good morning.
Got it badly wrong.
It did go very differently from the way we'd expected in the opinion polls, but of course that's exactly the same north and south of the border. There does seem to have been a very strong last-minute swing to the Conservative Party that was an entirely British phenomenon and affected both sides of the border.
What's the actual state of the parties at the moment then in Scotland?
We've got all but one of the seats declared now, and the Conservatives have got 11. That's one more than they had in 1987. I don't think they will pick up the outstanding seat. They might just do that, though. The Labour Party has got 49 seats, the Democrats, Liberal Democrats 8, and the SNP 3. So the Labour Party has got 4 times as many seats as the Conservatives. The Conservatives have only got 25% of the vote. They are remarkably relieved because they weren't decimated in this election. They think it's a great victory not to have lost half their seats. But if you remember that in 1987 they lost 11 seats and now they've gained one of them back again. So the other 10 have disappeared.
Do you think now that they're going to say to themselves this will actually give them a mandate for no change in Scotland? There won't be any change at all?
I think they will interpret it that way. They will feel that they took a very hard line on devolution, a very hard line on the status quo, and that they succeeded in putting their vote up, albeit just by 1%, and their number of seats up by 1. They may be wrong in that. And some people within the party, like George Younger earlier this week, was saying that devolution was an issue that would not go away, and he rather wished that they'd honoured their original promise in the Declaration of Perth in 1968, a promise by Edward Heath, that they would set up a Scottish Assembly. He advocated a return to that. He thought that the issue would stay as long as an assembly was denied. John Major might be flexible enough now that he's got re-elected to take that viewpoint, but I think at least for a few days he's going to be so enthusiastic about the result he'll feel no change is necessary.
Now what about the SNP? Their vote went up, but of course they lost Jim Sillars. They didn't do as well as they'd hoped.
Again, the clock was simply turned back to 1987 as far as the SNP was concerned in terms of seats. They've got the same 3 seats that they got in 1987. They haven't gained anything. They lost their by-election gain. Their vote is up by half, up from 14% to 21%. A very considerable increase in the vote, but no extra seats. And one of the seats that they should have won on that swing was Dundee East, which they should have taken from the Labour Party, and in that seat, instead of their vote going up by 7%, it went down by 7%.
Now we have elections coming up in Scotland in about 4 weeks' time. Do you think there's likely to be a real change there? Can we see a real change from the results we've seen?
Well, we've got Scottish district elections on May the 7th, and we're speculating that many Labour voters who voted Labour and stuck by the Labour Party yesterday in the expectation that Labour would form the government in Britain and deliver devolution, they might now in disgust switch to the SNP in a month's time. We'll have to wait and see whether that happens. That would be an electoral reaction to what people here are christening Doomsday Mark IV. There might be other reactions as well. Isabel Lindsay has called for a campaign of resistance against another doomsday scenario, and Canon Kenyon Wright has told the Scottish local authorities they must learn to live a little dangerously.
Bill Miller in Glasgow, thank you very much indeed.